well, let's finish 8.1 today. Yesterday we talked about kind of the difference between equations with one variable and equations with two variables. Yesterday we learned how to tell if an ordered pair was a solution to an equation. Today we're going to learn how to solve an equation given that x and y are whole numbers. The difference between solving equations of two variables and solving equations of one variable. Before, whenever we were solving equations with one variable, so 2x plus 2 equals 6, we could solve for x, and we always had an answer, right? Sometimes it was a little difficult, a little tricky, but we always got an answer, and it was always x, and it was always the same thing. The difference between equations with one variable and equations with two variables, equations of two variables have infinite number of solutions. It depends on what you plug in for x, what y is going to be. When you change x, it's going to change y. So I can't just give you 3x plus 4y equals 12 and say, solve for x, tell me what that number is. Because you can't do it, because if you don't know what y is, you can't solve for x. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to concentrate on solving equations given that x and y are whole numbers. So you're going to take two steps to do this. First thing, we're going to solve the equation for y in terms of x, which is just what we did on your bell work. After that, we're going to replace x with successive whole numbers, and we're going to find the corresponding values of y. If y is a whole number, we found a solution. Now, the first whole number is 0, and it goes up from there. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and going on. Negative numbers are not whole numbers, so you need to keep that in mind today. Okay, so first thing, we need to solve for y. So we're going to take that equation, 3x plus 4y equals 12. We're going to solve for y. Think back to our bell work. If I want to solve for y, what would I do first? I need to subtract 3x. Very good. I need to get that y by itself, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. Now I have 4y equals 12 minus 3x. What would I have to do next? Okay, I've got to divide by 4. And remember, I've got to divide each piece by 4 on that right-hand side. So I get y equals 12 over 4 gives me 3. And we're just going to leave that 3x over 4. We're going to change it to a 3/4 x. So my equation, when I put it in y equals 3 minus 3/4 x. After that, we're going to put all of our information in a handy-dandy table. Now, I've already made your table for this one because I love you guys. After this, we're going to have to make our own tables. What we're going to do, we're going to have a column for our x values, and in our x values, we're only going to put in whole numbers. We're always going to start with 0 because it's the first whole number. Middle column, we're going to put our equation that's already in y equals. And then in that last column, we're going to say, is it a solution? And if it is, we're going to say what the solution is. If it's not, we're just going to write no. So what we're going to do, we're going to take these x values, and we're going to plug it in x in for that equation. So we're going to take 0. We're going to plug it in for x. Yes, it is. So I have 3 minus 3/4, and instead of x, I'm going to plug in 0. Yeah, I am. Recording.
Okay, take 2.
Okay. Now we need to figure out what this equals. Okay, when I think about order of operations, I'm going to have to do multiplication first. What is 3/4 times 0? Just 0. 3 minus 0 gives me 3. Is 3 a whole number? It is. So it is one of my solutions that I'm going to write down. So I'm going to write down my answers as an ordered pair. And remember, ordered pairs are in the form x, comma, y. Okay, well, if I need to write in x, comma, y, what's my x? 0, right? That's what I said at the very beginning. My x value is 0. That's what I plugged in for x. What's my y? 3. That's the answer we found. So there's one of my solutions. Okay, let's do the same thing for 1. I have 3 minus 3/4 times 1. Okay, order of operations, do multiplication first. 3/4 times 1 gives me 3/4. I don't need to find out exactly what the answer is. Just tell me, is 3 minus 3/4 going to give me a whole number? No. Nope, that's all I care about, so I'm just going to write no. Now, I want to tell you guys that is a solution. Whatever that y value equals, it is a solution of this equation. But for today and in this section, we are just going to focus on whole number solutions. Okay? So for today, if you end up with a fraction or a negative number, you just need to write no. We're not going to include it in our solution set. Yes?
Well, on the first one, so 0, Wouldn't it be -3?
Nope, because 3 minus 0 gives me a positive 3,
Okay,
right?
yeah, whatever, yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move on and plug 2 in for x. If I have 3 minus 3/4 times, and I'm going to start writing my 2 over 1. Okay, well, if I look here, 3/4 times 2, I can divide out at 2. Now I have 3 minus 3/2. Is that going to give me a whole number? Nope. So it is not a whole number solution. Okay, we've got 2 more to plug in. When I plug in 3, I have 3 minus 3/4 times 3. Okay, this time I have nothing I can divide out. 3/4 times 3 over 1 will give me 9/4. Is 3 minus 9/4 going to give me a whole number? Nope. All right, and last one. If I have 3 minus 3/4, and we're going to plug 4 in for x. This time I can divide out a 4. So I have 3 minus 3, which is,
3 over 1, 3.
and 3 minus 3 is 0. Is 0 a whole number? Yes, it is. So this is a solution. So what would my answer be?
0.
Whoop. 4, comma 0. I plugged 4 in for x. Remember, my x is what I plugged in the first place. Okay, let's do 2 more. And then if you guys think you've got it, I'll let you get started on your homework. For the next one, let's do an easy one. Okay, we're going to look at 2x plus y equals 8. In the last example, what was the first thing we did? Before we made our table, before we did anything? We solved for y. Okay, how am I going to solve for y? Subtract 2x from both sides. So I get y equals 8 minus 2x. As long as I have y all by itself on the left-hand side, that's all I need. Now I can go ahead and make my table. So I'm going to have one column for my x values. I'm going to have a column to kind of show my work where I plug it into my equation. And then I'm going to have a column to write my solutions. And remember, for today, we're only going to include the solutions that are whole numbers. Okay, and like I said for your homework, I just want you to check values for x 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so we're going to go through and plug 0 in for 0 in for x. So for the first one, 8 minus 2 times, plug 0 in for x. So now I have 8 minus 2 times 0. What is 8 minus 2 times 0? 8. It's going to be 8 minus 0 or just 8. They are both whole numbers, so that it's going to be a solution. So my solution is 0, 8. Okay, let's do the same thing with 1. I have 8 minus 2 times 1. Well, what is 8 minus 2 times 1? 6. So what is my solution? 1, 6.
I haven't even written all my stuff down yet.
Okay, when I plug in 2, I'm going to have 8 minus 2 times 2. What is 8 minus 2 times 2? 4. So my solution is 2, 4. And lastly, 8 minus 2 times 3 is 2. So my solution is 3, 2. Now for your homework, like I said, this is all the further you have to go. But I do want to point out, we're going to go 2 more numbers just in case you run into this situation in your homework. If I plug in 4, I'm going to get 8 minus 2 times 4, which is 0. Which is 0. Is 0 a whole number?
Yeah.
It is. So I would go ahead and include this in my solution. But if I plug in 5, what happens?
You get negative number, which is not.
Okay, very good. I get a negative number. I get -2. So once you start getting negative numbers, that's where you would stop because you would say no. If you end up with a negative value for y, do not include it in your solutions because we are only looking for whole number solutions. I will repeat one more time. They are still solutions of this equation. They're still solutions. They're just not whole number solutions. They're not cool enough. Yeah, Sammy?
So in our homework, we only have to do 0.
Yes, on your homework you are only doing 0, 1, 2, and 3.
It needs a
Okay, let's look at one more, and then you guys can go ahead and get started on your homework. Let's do 3x minus 2y equals 1. Okay, for this one, once again, first thing we need to do is solve for y. Be really, really careful. I need to get rid of that 3x. How do I get rid of that 3x? I have to subtract 3x because it is a positive 3x. So now I have negative 2y equals 1 minus 3x, and then I would divide by negative 2. When I go through and I'm ready to start simplifying, after I divided by a negative 2, I have y equals, that 1 over negative 2, I'm going to just put that negative out front, and I'm going to call it a negative 1/2. For that second half, if I have a negative 3x over a negative 2, is that going to give me a positive or a negative? It's going to give me a positive. All right, now that I have my equation y equals, we can go through and make our table. So remember, we have a column for our x values, a column for our equation, and a column for our solutions. And we're just going to check the x values of 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, I want you guys to go through, check these values, decide if they're going to be whole number solutions, and if they are, go ahead and give me those values. All right, let's go ahead and talk through these. Whenever you plug in 0, this 3/2 times 0 just turns into a 0. So you should have negative 1/2, which is not a whole number, so we're not going to include that in our solution set. Now you have to be really, really careful, because I know you guys, and you're just going to say, fraction is not going to work, it's not going to work, it's a fraction. But look at this. I have a negative 1/2 plus 3/2, because 3/2 times 1 is just 3/2. They already have a common denominator. So if I add my numerators, negative 1 plus 3 gives me 2, and 2 over 2 is 1. So it is a solution. What is my solution? 1 comma 1.
1.
Oh, I forgot to do that.
Okay, number 2. When I multiply 3/2 by 2, I should get, right, I get 6 over 2, which is 3. Is negative 1/2 plus 3 going to give me a whole number solution? No. So 2 doesn't work. When I plug in 3, I get negative 1/2 plus 9/2. What is negative 1/2 plus 9/2?
Yeah.
8/2.
Yeah.
And what is 8/2?
2.
4.
4, sorry.
So my solution would be 3 comma 4. Don't just jump to the conclusion that if you see a fraction, it's not going to work.